Hey, this is Christian Buckley, and I'm here with Benjamin Nyland and Sue Hanley. And how are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Awesome.
Well, we're getting ready, of course, for the SharePoint Conference North America. SharePointNA.com is coming up. And there's this whole, I think one of the topics I know we want to talk about today around engage and inform. So you think about that, how you can leverage SharePoint to engage with your team, with your company, with your employees and inform them. It makes me think of the new features that have been announced and what we know is coming. But I mean, when you think of that, engage and inform, I mean, how do you talk about that with clients, with customers and partners?
Well, it's very interesting, actually. I think especially to have Sue and I on this call and talk about that topic, and something that will be more talked about when we will be at SharePoint Conference North America, and super excited to get back to that SharePoint conference. But I think communication sites come to mind when we're talking about that, because they're simple to use, they're a beautiful way to present information, and from what I've seen Sue create, they're really, really useful. I don't know, Sue, what do you think about that when you're thinking about communication sites, maybe?
Well, I'll tell you experience. The call right before we started this call, I was on the phone with a client, and we were there sort of getting ready to do a traditional communication to talk about they're opening up their new performance management.
Okay.
So it's year end, we're going to do performance management reviews. And I'm like, wait a minute, we're working on this beautiful new intranet site. Let me launch the performance management site now. I moved over all of their content, and we took a look at how can I take that boring news email that I was going to send and make it really gorgeous. So I took their content. They wanted people to watch a video. Well, let's not make people go find the video. Embed it on the page.
Yeah.
So great story, the video embedded on the page, links to all the other assets that you need. And then I said, hey, you do not have to create that boring email. Let's just go create the page in SharePoint, send via email.
I love that feature.
They were like overwhelmed. The feature that
ideas.
I also talked about with another client this morning, they were talking about creating newsletters. And I'm like, whoa, yes, what's coming? So you write, the problem with newsletters normally is that they happen after the news already took place. So they're not news.
And then it sits on a site or something where it's static and doesn't change. And 6 months later, somebody else says, hey, we should refresh that newsletter.
Right. So like news, they're very rarely news. And so I was talking about how what we're going to get very soon, because we saw this at Ignite, is the ability to go in, look at all those news articles that we wrote when things happen, and then go check, generate newsletter. And I've seen what that email looks like. And I can tell you it's
amazing.
Unreal. It's beautiful. I mean, Ben, I think you and I saw it the first time together.
Yes.
Drooling. We were literally drooling, like, holy cow, how did they do that? This is so incredible.
And I think what strikes me the most about this is that it's easy to create. Anyone can do it, right? You create your announcement, or when we're talking about engage and inform, it's really creating that beautiful page with all the information you want and how to interact with it. You're talking about the video, but you can see the views. You can jump into Stream to look at the analytics. You can add your content directly on the page, and that's where you had me, is when you're done, you publish the page, and then you have that I forget what it was called, but create that email digest or newsletter. And I'm just going to pick this one, that one, send, and it was a beautiful presentation. The email was something I could actually read. So I thought it was, finally something easy, beautiful, and you can engage with it through comments. I absolutely love it.
Some people forget too that it's, we've got to be careful not to slip back into that whole build it and they will come. No matter how functional, beautiful the site is, different people, they consume information in different ways. And there's nothing wrong with having, tools and pushing content out sometimes, especially when you're talking about an intranet in your project team. I mean, I spent years running PMOs and as an operations manager and gathering this information, and then people say, oh, I never got it. It's like, you have the URL. It's the same site we talk about every week in the status calls. Go open your browser, look at it, and log in. But to be able to push that information out, but do it and have this, a nice looking solution and do it in a like dynamic way that's quick and easy to push and share that information.
You want SharePoint to store to be the content services, right? Where you store your content in a neat way that's easy to understand, view, responsive. But then you want to be able to notify people in different ways. So that's where the SharePoint mobile app comes in, right? Where you get the push notifications now. That could be with Microsoft Teams, where you could embed it directly in a tab, or you could just post a message. But the source is actually SharePoint, and it's where you consume it. But engaging with the content could happen in various forms and different channels, and that's the beauty of all of this.
Ben, you just named a great tagline for a new T-shirt too. Is SharePoint is neat. I would wear that T-shirt. So
I just want to put one little caveat on all this. So it is really, really easy to create content, which is awesome. But just because you can create it easily doesn't mean it's great content. And one of the things we want to be careful about as we promote all these incredible features is that it's very easy to create a beautiful page with lots of images. But just because it's got lots of images doesn't make it a great piece of content. So we don't want to measure
the sliders and the carousels, right?
Right. We don't want to measure people on the output. We want to measure them on the outcome. Is that page getting read? So the most important skill that we now need to have in this new world of how easy it is to engage is be able to write content that people want to read. That means creating great titles. It means making sure that the first couple of lines of that news article summarize the main event. You want to write like a journalist, because now that news digest is going to capture my attention because the headline is interesting and the first couple of lines are interesting. So this, I think, is like one of the things that I really emphasize in a lot of the presentations I do, including when I'm doing at the SharePoint conference, and also when I work with clients, is most of us are not trained even to write, much less write for the web. So don't empower people with this great, phenomenal tool without giving them the resources to help them communicate using this great tool.
Well, and I think one of the benefits, in wrapping this up around the SharePoint Conference North America is that I think by the time with this new features and new capabilities, one, I'm always interested in seeing the various the presenters, but also the exhibitors, the vendors that are out there, how they've already added on and extended these things and show customer examples of deployments of the technology and some of these early deployments like you're talking about. Where these customers that are working in advance with Microsoft to kind of test these out before they generally become, go GA and generally available to everyone. But this show is a great place to go and see all of that and to learn more about how you can successfully use this capability.
Yeah, it's really
that's why you want to be there in person. Oh, sorry. I was going to say that's why you want to be there in person, to not only see things, but to engage with the people who are teaching you their best practices and their lessons learned.
Ask questions, understand. Right, exactly. How it applies to your nuanced experiences, your needs, your requirements.
Exactly, and what I would add to that is really the value of this conference, this SharePoint Conference North America, is really the fact that everybody going there is focused on SharePoint, and of course around it now. But we are able to, have any discussion, whether you had a happy hour SharePoint or you had lunch. Everyone you're sitting around with is living some form of SharePoint where you can bounce ideas with, whether it's the speakers or other attendees. That's what I love about the SharePoint Conference.
I mean, it's like a big family, right? Where else can you go to a family reunion that big? Like all your SharePoint cousins.
It is really is. It's going to be the biggest concentration of SharePoint practitioners in the world happening in Las Vegas in May at the SharePoint Conference North America. If you've not yet registered, please go out to sharepointna.com. And Ben and Sue, thanks a lot for your time, and we'll see you in Vegas.